So let us move further and quickly take a look at today's agenda first. Firstly, I would be discussing the basics of cloud, as in why it is needed and what it is exactly. I would also discuss the different models that cloud has to offer to you, like its service models and also its deployment models. I would also discuss the different cloud providers that are there in the market. And finally, I would finish things off with the demo part. I hope this agenda is clear to all of you. Firstly, let's understand why cloud. To understand this, we need to understand the situation that existed before cloud came into existence. So what happened back then? Well, firstly, in order to host a website, you had to buy a stack of servers. And we all know that servers are very costly. So that meant we ended up paying a lot of money. Next was the issue of traffic. Now, as we all know, if we are hosting a website, we are dealing with traffic that is not constant throughout the day. And that meant more pain. We would understand that as we move further. And the other thing was monitoring and maintaining your servers. Yes, this is a very big problem. Now, all these issues, they led to certain disadvantages. What are those? As I mentioned, servers are very costly. Yes, the setup was again costly, and thus you ended up paying a lot of money. And there were other factors contributing to this point. Let's discuss those as well. One, troubleshooting was a big issue. Since you're dealing with a business, your prime focus is on taking good decisions so that your business does well. But if you end up troubleshooting problems or you focus more on infrastructure related issues, then you cannot focus more on your business, and that was a problem. So either you had to do multitasking or you had to hire more people to focus on those issues. Thus, again, you ended up paying more money. As I've discussed, the traffic on a website is never constant. And since it varies, you are not certain about its patterns. Say, for example, I need to host a website. And for that, what I decide is I'm reserving 2 petabytes of total memory for my usage based on the traffic. But as the traffic varies, there would be times when the traffic is high and my whole 2 petabytes of data is consumed or space is consumed rather. But what if the traffic is very low for certain hours of the day? I'm actually not utilizing these servers. So I end up paying more money for the servers than I should be. So yes, upscaling was an issue. So all these things were an issue because we were paying more money, we did not have sufficient time to take our decisions properly, there was ambiguity, there was more trouble monitoring and maintaining all these resources. And apart from that, one important point which we need to consider is the amount of data that is being generated now and that was being generated then. Then it was okay. But nowadays, if you take a look at it, the amount of data that is generated is huge. And this is another reason why cloud became so important. Yeah, as I've mentioned the data, now we all know that everything is going online these days. And what that means is we shop online, we buy food online, we do almost everything that is required, as in whatever information we need, we get everything online. Your bookings, your reservations, everything can be taken care of. That means we have a lot of data that is being generated these days, and this is digital data. Back in those times, we were communicating through verbal discussions and all those things, so through paperwork, and that was a different data to maintain. Since everything is moving on cloud or moving online, the amount of data that we have is huge these days. And then when you have this huge amount of data, you need a space where you can actually go ahead and maintain this data. So yes, again, there was a need of this space. And all these issues, that is your cost, your monitoring, your maintenance, providing sufficient space, everything was taken care by cloud. So let us try to understand what this cloud is exactly. Well, think of it as a huge space that is available online for your usage. Now, this is a very generic definition to give you. To be more specific, I would be saying that think of it as a collection of data centers. Now, data centers again are a place where you store your data or you host applications basically. So, when you talk about these data centers, they were already existing. So, what did cloud do differently? Well, what cloud did was it made sure that you are able to orchestrate your various functionings, your applications, managing your resources properly by combining all these data centers together through a network and then providing you the control to use these resources and to manage them properly. To make it even more simpler, I would say there was a group of people or organizations basically that went ahead and bought these servers, these compute capacities, storage places, compute services, and all those things. And they have their own channel or network. All you have to do was go ahead and rent those resources only to the amount you need it and also for the time that you need it. So, yes, this is what cloud did. It let you rent the services that you need and use only those services that you need. So you ended up paying for the services that you rented and you ended up saving a lot of money. The other thing is these service providers, they take care of all the issues like your security, your underlying infrastructures, and all those things. So you can freely focus on your business and stop worrying about all these issues. So this is what cloud is. In simple words, it's a huge space which has all these services available, and you can just go ahead and pick and rent those services that you want to use. So what is cloud computing? Well, I've already discussed that. Just to summarize it, I would say it is nothing but an ability, or it is a place where you can actually store your data, you can process it, and you can access it from anywhere in the world. Now, this is an important point. Say, for example, you decide to choose a region for your infrastructure somewhere in US. You can sit in maybe China or maybe in India, and you can still have access to all your resources that is there in US. All you need is a good internet connection. So that is what cloud does. It makes the world accessible. It lets you have your applications wherever you want to and manage them the way you want to. So this was about cloud computing, guys. Next, we would be discussing different service models. Now, you need to understand one thing. You're being offered cloud services, the platform to use your services or your applications, basically. But then different people have different requirements. There are certain people who just want to consume a particular resource, or there are certain people who actually want to go ahead and create their own applications, create their own infrastructure, and all those things. So, based on these needs, we have particular service models, that is, your cloud providers provide you with a particular model which suits your needs. So let us try to understand these models one by one. Well, we have these three models, that is your IaaS, your PaaS, and your SaaS. I would be discussing them in the reverse order. That is, I would be talking about SaaS first, and then I would go upwards. So let us start with SaaS or SaaS. SaaS is nothing but a software as a service. Now, what happens here is basically you're just consuming a service which is already being maintained and handled by someone else. To give you a valid example, we have a Gmail. All you do is you send mail to people and you receive mails. And whatever functionality you do is you just use the service that is there. You do not have to maintain it. You do not have to worry about upscaling, downscaling, security issues, and all those things. Everything is taken care by Google. Say, for example, your Gmail is what I'm talking about. Google manages everything here. So all you have to worry about is consuming that service. Now, this model is known as software as a service, that is SaaS. Next, we have PaaS, that is platform as a service. Now, here you are provided with a platform where you can actually go ahead and build your own applications. To give you an example, we have our Google App Engine. Now, when you talk about Google App Engine, what you can do is you can go ahead and you can create your own applications and you can put it on Google App Engine so that others can use it as well. So in short, you're using the platform to create your own applications. And lastly, we have IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, the whole infrastructure is provided to you so that you can go ahead and create your own applications. That is, an underlying structure is given to you. Based on that, you can go ahead and choose your operating systems, the kind of technology you want to use on that platform, the applications you want to build, and all those things. So that is what an IaaS is, infrastructure as a service, basically. So these were the different models that I wanted to talk about. So let us move further and discuss the next topic, that is the different deployment models that are there. Now, when you talk about deployment models, you can also call them as different types of clouds that are there in the market. We have these three types, that is your public cloud, your private cloud, and your hybrid cloud. Let us try to understand these one by one. Now, as the name suggests, the public cloud, it's available to everyone. You have a service provider who makes these services or these resources available to people worldwide through the internet. It is an easy and very inexpensive way of dealing with the situation, because all you have to do is you have to go ahead and rent this cloud and you're good to use, and it is available publicly. Next, we have the private cloud. Now, this is a little different. Here, you are provided with this service and you can actually go ahead and create your own applications. And since it's a private cloud, you're protected by a firewall and you do not have to worry about various other issues that are there at hand. And next we have our hybrid cloud. Now it is a combination of your private cloud and your public cloud. Say for example, you can go ahead and build your applications privately. You can use them, you can consume them, you can use them efficiently. When you sense that peak in your traffic, you can actually move it to public. That is, you can move it to the public cloud and even others can have access to it and they can use it. So these are the three basic deployment models that are there for your exposure or your usage rather, and you can go ahead and use those as well. I hope this was clear to all of you. So let us move further and try to understand the next topic, that is different cloud providers that are there in the market. Now, as I've mentioned, what happened was since cloud came into existence, quite a few people went ahead and they bought their own infrastructure and now they rent these services to other people. And when you talk about this infrastructure, there are quite a few people out there who are actually providing these cloud services to different people across the globe. Now, when you talk about these cloud providers, the first thing that should come to your mind is Amazon Web Services, because it is highly popular and it leaves other cloud providers way behind. The reason I'm saying this is the numbers that talk about Amazon Web Services. To give you an example, if you talk about its compute capacity, it is 6 times larger than all the other service providers that are there in the market. Say, for example, if you talk about the other service providers in the market, if their compute capacity combined was X, Amazon Web Services alone gives you a capacity of 6x, which is huge. Apart from that, it's flexible pricing and various other reasons, that is the services it provides and all those things. It is rightly a global leader. And the fact that it had a head start, that is, it started way before many other services that are there in the market, it actually gained popularity. And now we see quite a few organizations going ahead and using Amazon Web Services. Apart from that, we have Microsoft Azure, which is a Microsoft product. And we all know that when Microsoft decides to do something, they expect that they kill all the competition that is there in the market. It is still not in terms with Amazon Web Services or few other service providers that are there in the market, but not very neck to neck. But it is probably the second best when you talk about Amazon Web Services or the cloud service providers in the market. So, yep, it has a lot of catching up to do when you compare it with Amazon Web Services, but it is still a very good cloud service provider that is there in the market. Then we have something called as Google Cloud Platform. Again, a very good cloud provider in the market. Now, why am I saying this? We all know the infrastructure that Google has to offer to you. It is one of the best search engine that is there in the market, and the amount of data they deal with every day is huge. So they are the pioneers when you talk about big data and all those things, and they know how to actually handle this amount of data and how to have an infrastructure that is very good. That is why they have a very good facility, and that leads to it being one of the cheapest service providers in the market. Yes, there are certain features that GCP offers which are better even than Amazon Web Services when you talk about its pricing. And the reason for it is it has various other services that are there. What it does is it helps you optimize various costs. How? It uses analytics and various other ways by which it can optimize the amount of power you use, and that leads to less usage of power. And since you're paying less for power, that is, providers are paying less for power, you end up paying less for your services as well. So that is why it is so cost efficient. Then there are other service providers, that is, we have DigitalOcean, we have Terramark, we have IBM, which is again very popular. But that is a discussion for some other time. As far as these service providers go, these are the major ones. That is, we have Amazon Web Services, we have Microsoft Azure, we have GCP, which are talked about a lot. This was about the basic cloud providers and the basic intro which I wanted you all to have. I hope you all are clear with whatever concepts we've discussed till time. So let us move further and switch into the demo part. Let us try to explore few of these services or cloud providers, as in at least the introductory part. Okay, guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into the console basically, where we can take a look at these services one by one. So yes, guys, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've logged into my AWS account. Now, AWS provides you with a free tier, and then they have their paid services as well. Let's discuss these one by one. First, I would talk about AWS, then I would talk about GCP, and to some extent, I would also discuss Azure as well. But let's focus on AWS for first. One point which I did not mention while going through the concepts was AWS provides you with a free tier. Now, when I say a free tier, this is where you do not have to pay any upfront money. You can actually go ahead and have access to AWS services and see how they work. And once you are confident and comfortable with them, you can actually go ahead and decide whether you want to buy those services or not. So yes, these services are made available to you for free for one complete year. Yes, there are certain restrictions on it, but as long as you stay in those restrictions, you won't be charged anything. If you cross those restrictions, yes, AWS will charge you. Now, how does AWS do that? Well, when you create an account, you have to give in your credit card details or debit card details. When you do that, AWS will cut a lump sum amount from your account, verify your account, and reinstate that amount back into your account so that none of your money is used, but just a verification is done that this is your valid credit card or your debit card. And once your 12-month free trial expires, then they would notify you that your free trial is over. Would you want to go ahead and continue using our services? If you say yes, then they would charge you. Meanwhile, they won't charge you. So you can stay relaxed and you can actually go ahead and give your credit card or debit card details. But just make sure that you set an alarm, and once your free trial gets over, you kind of either revoke your access or go ahead and continue with the paid services that AWS has to offer to you. So what does this free tier has to offer to you basically? Let's take a look at those. Well, firstly, we have compute services when you talk about AWS, and to name a few, we have EC2, we have Lambda, which are popular services. Now, EC2 is something like a raw server where you can actually go ahead and host your websites and applications. It is very popular, and if you want to use it, AWS gives you 750 hours per month for free. Then you have a service called as Amazon QuickSet, which is basically an analytics service. And I won't get into the details of what it does basically, but you have a space of 1 GB available to you. That is nothing but spice capacity basically. Again, I won't get into the details because I want to stick to the surface as far as this session goes. Then you have other services like your database service, which is an RDS. You have your storage service, which is S3, Amazon Lambda. Now, Lambda is another compute service, which is similar to your EC2, but EC2 is more of a place where you can host your websites, whereas Lambda does not let you host your websites. But yes, you can definitely go ahead and do a lot of background application work when you talk about AWS Lambda. Apart from that, AWS also provides with various videos that talk about how do you want to go ahead and get started with using these services, how to create an account, how to create instances and all those things. So this was about the free tier. Let us kind of move further and see how the console looks like. You can actually go ahead and create your own instances. You can do a lot of things. So this is what the different services that AWS has to offer to you. You have your compute services, developer tools, machine learning, analytics, your storage, database services. You can actually go ahead and use these on your own. You can go ahead and create certain instances here. Now, once you click here on EC2, you get to see the number of instances that are active, the security groups that are there, the key pairs that you have. Let us see or take a look at an instance basically. I would tell you how to create one. I won't create one myself because I have certain ones running already. So I would just walk you through how the process works. When you click on that launch instance, it will give you options as in what kind of an instance do you want to create. So you can actually go ahead and pick the one that suits your need based on the OS you're using and stuff like that. Since I'm using a Windows OS, I'll be picking one for Windows, and I would be using the one that is freely available to me or eligible for my free tier. So when I say select, I see that a free tier eligible T2 micro instance is available to me. I can either click on this and directly go to the final step of creation, or I can take a step-by-step approach. That is, if I want to modify it, I can go ahead and give in these details as in the number of instances, my purchasing options, network, subnet, auto assign, public IP, and all those things. So let's click on next. And we can also put in these details, but I'm going to stick to the default decisions or the selections. You can also go ahead and configure your security groups. I would talk about that as well, do not worry. And finally, it would say, do you want to review and launch it? Once you click on this, you'd have a new instance. There would be a couple of status checks and you'd have your instance available for use. To give you an example, take a look at this. As you can see, I have two instances running and the security checks are done, and I can actually go ahead and do a lot of things with it. I can actually go ahead, I can connect to a server, I can have my security groups, security policies. And when you have an instance, you can do so many things, hosting a website and the other things that are there. Now, I just mentioned key pair values and I mentioned security groups. Now, when you talk about a key pair, it is nothing but an authentication process that lets you use your instance. It is a verification process basically. It varies when you talk about using it on your Linux and using it on your Windows. Windows, you would need it for an external login. As far as when you talk about Linux, you'll have to go ahead into your terminal and generate those SSHs or your secure server keys basically, or secure shell keys rather, and then log into your website and then go ahead and use it on your server basically. So this is what happens. So that is something that you called as a key pair value. When you talk about AWS, a key pair value once created, it is unanimous, or it is not unanimous, rather it is primary to a particular instance, and you should not lose it, because if you do, that instance becomes useless for you. So you have to make sure that once you create a key value pair, that key value pair, it stays with you. And when you do try to connect to a server, that key pair value or its value is available with you, so that basically you can switch to your server and connect to it. And then you have something called as your security groups as well. Now, if you come down here, you can go ahead and set in your security group policies, whatever those are. You can create a new security group and you can just go ahead and add rules as in what kind of security policies you want. Say, for example, you have your HTTP, HTTPS. Now, if you're using Windows, you'd be needing RDP and those kinds of rules. You can go ahead and select a source you want to, and accordingly, you can set in your security rules. Once you create and click on create, you'd be having your security group up and running for you, and you can like stay assured that your so-called services are more than secure here. So yeah, this was about Amazon Web Services and how its interface looks like. Then you have something called as your GCP. Now, GCP too has a free tier. The only difference is GCP gives you a balance amount, as in say some amount of US dollars, and you can the services are paid services, but you can use this balance to go ahead and use those services. So it pans out to similar approach which AWS takes in. But if you talk about their pricing, AWS charges you on hourly basis, whereas your Google Cloud Platform charges you on second basis. So it is more affordable. Say, for example, you stop using a particular instance at 2 minutes, you'd be charged only for those 2 minutes. But if you stop using an instance for 2 minutes in AWS, you'd be charged for a complete hour. So that is the difference between the two. As far as logging in is concerned, again, you'll be going ahead and giving in your credit card details here as well. The difference is here you have to make sure that you do not enable your billing, because once you do that, trust me, you're going to end up paying a lot of money, because I accidentally left few instances open the last time I logged in and I was charged heftily without me being noticed. So when you see a button there saying that enable billing, make sure that you use it carefully, because you do not want to be charged for something that you are not using. So when you talk about GCP, this is how the interface looks like. You have all the services here as well. There you had your compute services, you have your compute engine basically, and you can too come here and create your instances. You can click here and you can go ahead and go through the process of creating your instances, but I won't be creating an instance as far as your GCP is concerned, because I've given you a reason already. I'm happy working with AWS for now. This is your dashboard where you get in all the information as in whatever is happening as far as your account is concerned. So this is one of the accounts managed by a person I know who works with me, and the certain projects which he has gone ahead and created. So it's the information for those details, or the details for that projects basically. And then you have something called as your Microsoft Azure. Now I won't log in and get into the details, but yeah, it too provides you with similar services. So yes, this was about the different cloud providers that are there in the market, and I just wanted you all to have some understanding as in how do these things work and what do these services have to offer to you. I hope this is clear to all.